the two main documents to work through on these are the one that I've provided for background, which is this one.
Mm-hmm.
This has your learning objectives here on the left. It then got the individual assessment criteria in the middle,
mm-hmm.
and it's got recommendations of how to actually put the work together.
Okay.
So it's got read and respond because there's some material on the VLE for you on this. Theories are suggested in the amplification and can be read and taken from Chapter 2 of the e-book Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, Enhancing Academic Practice. So again, make your analysis from the models. If you're looking at models of learning, it's 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking at VARC basically, visual, audio, kinesthetic, the way people actually learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 4th one is explain how identifying those first takes into account of learners' individual learning preferences, enables inclusive teaching, learning and assessment. Basically what that's about is once you've found out how your group learns and you've got a good idea of the best way of learning, then you can actually adapt how you deliver. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of talking for hours on end, and you've got a group of not audio learners who are switched off after the first 15 minutes, you're not going to achieve your aim. So what I do is break it up a little bit. So that's the first learning objective. And what I tend to do is ask you to complete this one first, and we'll go through that in a minute in detail, and then we move on to the others afterwards, because the process that you've gone through in this first one, you've done an analysis of theories, principles and models of learning, and then you've explained ways in which those theories could actually be applied into the classroom. Again, it's analysed models of learning preference, and then explain how identifying that allows you to actually then use the different resources that can actually engage them all.
Mm-hmm. So where is the source material that I find to answer all these?
Well, I'm gonna come back to that in a second.
Okay. All right.
And then the next learning objectives are analyse theories and models of communication, and explain how they can be put into practice. Analyse theories and principles and models of assessment and ways in which those can be put into practice. The next one is curriculum development and explain, and the final one is slightly different. It's analyse theories and models of reflection and evaluation, and that is reflection and evaluation of yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. Explain ways in which theories and models of reflection and evaluation can be applied to reviewing your own practice. Literally, I can go back to where this was not a much used item. Many years ago, you did this in your head. You'd do a session. At the end of the session, you'd think to yourself, well, that went great. Everything worked. Everybody was engaged. It worked. Everything was fine. Yeah. And other times you'd think, didn't go too well. I could have said that's there. Perhaps I should have done that a different way. You are self-critical, very much so, as a teacher. So it is a natural practice from the way you work. What the modern trend to do now is to actually record this. Yeah. So you do an evaluation of what you've just done, and then look at ways in which you can improve it. So it's basically the very same thing, but actually recorded, and in some ways I think it's better because then you remember or you know really what you want, what you intend to do, and see how that will work. So I'll just put that to one side now to go into the next one. Now this one will give you a little bit of more information, and it's looking at theories, models and principles of education, Unit 3, QTF. The unit aim is to give learners an underpinning knowledge and understanding that help in the development of their own practice, education and training. The unit includes an examination of theories, principles and models of learning and teaching used to support education and training. So if you read further down there, it will then say this is a prerequisite for Unit 1. Yeah. Learners must be given the opportunity to show the development of the knowledge and understanding and the skills demonstrated in the other units. There is a requirement for learners to be able to analyse and understand and demonstrate their understanding of the theories. And this knowledge-based unit, therefore, there is no requirement for any assessment, evidence, or of evidence-based or teaching practice. However, it's essential that principles and theories draw on your own experiences to make theory more relevant to specific subject areas. Now, what this does is actually look at the first, or the main learning objective, and then takes the assessment criteria individually. Analyse theories and principles and models of learning. Okay, theories, principles and models, e.g. procedural versus declarative knowledge. Anderson, skills development, Gagne, scaffolding learning, Bruner and Vygotsky. Vygotsky you will pick up in a lot of areas because he's had a lot to say about education and training, and I must say that I agree with a lot of what he says. I find him most useful. Knowing that and knowing how, Ryle, inductive learning, Bruner, and deductive. Approaches, situated approaches to learning, Larvey and Wenger. Banking concepts of education, Freire, and competency-based models, learning as a change in behaviour, and learner-based models, which are more practical examples of learning. And of course, Dewin-Rogers constructivist approaches, formal versus non-formal learning. Now these are a number of theorists and model developers in education and training. Now I find although the books are quite good to read, quite often if you will put one of these guys up into Google and have a look at what he's got to say, then you can actually paraphrase some of that or make some notes from that and put your piece together from the notes you've made. And that has worked extremely well with a lot of learners on this one, because some of them have not really been involved so much in the theoretical side of education before. And it is a good way to get some background into that for yourself. By doing that research yourself, it then allows you then to say, I agree with this or I don't agree with this. Because where it says how it can be applied to everyday teaching, once you've looked at you don't have to cover all of these, by the way, but I would pick 2, 3, perhaps 4 maximum out of there and have a look at what they've got to say. And then by doing that, you will then make up your mind which parts you agree with and which parts you may not think as useful. Certain concepts are fine for adult learning, others are mainly aimed at children and younger end children, so they wouldn't really apply in the real world if you were teaching in further education. But it's worth looking at and reading through to get that background into the teaching operation. So that's 1.1. 1.2, applied theories, principles and models, linking aspects of the existing practice with theories, developing teachers' personal theories of learning. And this is why I said personal. You will have ideas about these, and you may look at someone's, or the theoretics of something, an idea of something, and you think, oh, that's nonsense. Or that would not work for me. I couldn't work in that situation, because you will develop a method of teaching. You'll develop your own style of teaching, and that is important. That can make the difference between a class coming in wanting to listen to you and a class coming in because it's their time for that class. You understand? So again, it gives you some ideas on here: competency-based programs, individual learning plans, ILPs. One of the things you'll come to actually on Unit 1 is you will have to produce a couple of ILPs for a couple of students, and you will also have to use their initial assessment documentation to actually build that individual learning plan. So there are a number of things to look at in there, and actually, yeah. Again, 1.3, models of learning preference. Honey and Mumford, useful couple. Gardner's multiple intelligences. Caulfield et al. Critique of learning styles. Metacognition ability to set explicit challenging goals and to identify strategies to reach the goals and to monitor progress towards them. One of the things on there about learning preferences is you will find that some of the theorists will say there are 4 different types of learner. Then you'll see somebody else say, no, there are 6. And somebody else will say, oh, no, there are 8 or 10. Basically, there are only 3 or 4 different learning styles. The others are derivatives from that, if you like. But it's theorists who have gone into it deeper to split up into different sections. Finally, 1.4 is explain how identifying and taking into account of learners' individual learning preferences enables inclusive teaching and learning and assessment, which is what I said at the beginning. Once you've identified how the group you have learn, then you can put together your response, or your response to that is the way that you actually then deliver that learning.
Okay.
And the resources that you use to do that. One of the ways that you will do that is by putting a session plan. For instance, you will then, the session plan actually dictates what the teacher's doing, what the learners are doing, and it's timed down the side throughout the lesson as you build a lesson plan, basically. And if you've gone through this process and know the learners are, some of them are audio learners, some of them are visual learners, some are kinesthetic, you will then put together something they can watch, a video. You will do some giving them information, and have something like a quiz at the end or something like that that will engage everybody, basically. And basically that's how you build your session plan. So, as I said, the others are looking at theories and models of communication. And again, Vygotsky's got his name in here again, and the different ways it's done. But I'm not going to go into that now tonight. That's for another session. Because Learning Objective 1 has 4 assessment criteria, we work through that one first. Once you've completed Learning Objective 1, if you then wish to carry on with 2, because it is the same process through this unit, an analysis of the various theories and principles, and then an explanation of how you could actually employ that in your day-to-day learning, in your day-to-day lessons or delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So we've looked at theorists in principles and models of learning. We've looked at ways or areas of use that will bring in those theorists and actually deliver them actually in the classroom. We've looked at models of learning preference, the way people learn, and how that, having that knowledge can improve the way you actually deliver the course with the right resources. So that basically is Learning Objective 1 in a nutshell. Also to assist, I'll put that to one side, I've got a number of PowerPoint presentations on here. This is a very big one. No one even insult your intelligence by going through it with you, but I'll just go through a few slides to explain how it works. So Learning Objective 1. Oops, back. Consider the value of theories and principles for planning and delivering learning. Research, summarise and present and discuss learning theories. And then review, evaluate and reflect on how theoretical principles are demonstrated in practice. Theories. Yes. The first thing most people say when you talk about theories is, yes, they can guide us in our professional practice. They're not there to teach us, they're there to influence us. Yes, they influence the choices we make about the ways in which we teach. Theory precedes practice, therefore drives practice. We can respond better to the individual needs of our learners if we've got more information. Popper describes theories as nets cast to catch in what we would call the world, to rationalise it and to... Oops, jump in this one. Give over. Sorry. And to rationalise and to explain and to master it. So how do I identify which are the most significant theories? How do all theories relate to each other? Which books or articles do we choose to read? All of those things help us to be more effective as teachers. And this is why on the other sheet I told you to have a look at some of the guys on there. Go into Google and see what they've got to say. Make some notes on what they say. And then once you've done that, then you'll be able to put your piece together on that.
Okay.
Hi, Kieran. I can see you. I couldn't see you before. Now, on the other, I mean, there are different methods you'll go through: behaviourist, cognitivist, constructivist, and humanist, and situated learning theorists. So you've got a bunch of learners, and they're all different. Yeah, that's your class. And they're a mixture. So it's actually looking at what you can do to actually do that. So there's some good material in this PowerPoint. By all means, have a look through it. It goes on for another 32 slides. I think it looks at a number of people. Gagner there, Pavlov, behaviourists, you know, Pavlov's dogs, and how he modified their behaviour. So yeah. There are a whole host of things on these PowerPoints for you to actually go through. I'll drop that back for a minute off and look at there. So that one covers actually Learning Objective 1. It looks at 3, 4 and 5 as well on there. There's one on its own for Learning Objective 2, and there's a specific one for 3 as well. So the two main sheets are the one I've got set up here, which are the amplification and, yeah, put that down here. And the other one is the one I put together for you on here. As we go through the qualification, there are also some handouts on specific areas, some that I've gleaned from elsewhere and some that I've written myself. If they've got my name on the bottom, it's usually one of mine, basically to untangle some of what's been said in the other work to make it clearer, that's all. It's sometimes worth having a look at those handouts just to sort of clear your mind a little bit sometimes from what you've read. This document that you can see here, I will modify when you send me some work in. It will then say assessment front sheet. It will have your name and number in here, and it's got A and NYA in here, which is achieved and not achieved. Because at this point, I will then get rid of that and just put page number on there, and then I will get rid of this as you fill it in, and I'll put my assessment of your work in here. Yeah.
Okay. So where do we find the template for this thing?
Yeah, this will go at the head of your work, so you'll always know where you're up to, because it will say achieved on here when you've achieved it, and we'll have my assessment in here.
Okay.
I'll just have a look, see if I've got an example put that down as well. I might have an example. I can't remember what I did with them all now. I'll just have a quick look in my documents. It might be in there, won't it? Who knows? A pile of stuff I stuck on here just to
yogurt and sugar. One minute. Coffee में हमको yogurt और sugar में तो yogurt and sugar वो बचा है और sugar भी थोड़ी
no, not on that one. Just a second. Oops, not rid of it. Shouldn't have. Documents.
और sugar डालने के बाद
I know it's on here somewhere.
yogurt, sugar और bread के पीछे है ना ये भी बड़े मजे का
So it's not like the course provides us with like a sort of word template, and we're just adding the information into that template.
Well, I'm gonna show you now if I've got it on here.
Okay.
I can just find it.
तो कभी हम हाली योगर्ट और शुगर अगर शुगर उसमें डालना है तो उसको शुगर डालना कैसे वो हनी सुबह लिखा है
I really should put this in order.
Okay.
Well, what I'll do is, because I know she won't mind me showing it, because it's the same. It's a different course, but it's the same process.
Okay.
हाँ योगर्ट और डालना तो न्यू योगर्ट आया है हम पापा कैसे आपको हाँ न्यू योगर्ट मंगवाऊँ यहाँ लेके आ रहे हैं
Yeah, so this is at the head of her work, basically. That says it's achieved. That says why it's achieved. Yeah. And it says where the evidence is, and it says on which page it's on. Yeah.
Okay.
And then literally your Word document starts. Unit 3, Level 3 Assessor Award. Be able to, and then put Learning Objective 1, Assessment Criteria 1. Yeah. This is one where she can actually see appendices that she's got evidence that you can put together on there. And just a short explanation then of what that is. And that's excellent. Yeah. And then
I get it now.
Yeah, straightforward. And you can see my initial or formative assessment is here on the side. Now you'll see it's very bleak. It says good, or okay, or sometimes fine, whatever I feel like at the side. It's as much for me as you. What that's saying is that I've accepted it. Yeah, and I've now passed that off. I will then move to the top of the sheet and I'll put achieved in here.
Okay.
Why I put it achieved, I'll write in here. Yeah. I put on, please refer to the assessment plan supplied at apps 1, 2 and 5 showing the assessment plans and methods of resource and needed to perform the assessments and who is involved in the process. Apps 10, 11 and 12 with linking information and that's on page 4 and 5. Analyse evidence of learner achievement, and that will be on those apps and it will be on
All right. So you add all the references to the work we
Yeah,
provide.
so everything's on there. And again, I've put on here, referring to the apps, you have explained how you maintain and store records, make data available to authorised colleagues, and describe the procedure your organisation follows to ensure the data is secure. That's then achieved, and that's where the information is, if you want to read it. This sheet does several things. It gives information for me to know where you're up to, and my assessment is up to date. It tells you exactly where you're up to on the programme, and it has your work underneath it. And again, when you've finished, I'll put some final comments on there and sign it off and date it. Yeah.
Okay.
That then goes, when we've completed the unit, it goes into our registry. And then it is there and held there until you've completed the course. And then we've got all the evidence, it's all been assessed, it's all been signed off, and we can then apply for certification basically as soon as you've finished. Because on this award, we hold something called direct claim status. So we don't have to wait for the external verifier coming in before we can claim certification. I just send a report in to them with a number of names on and claim the certification.
Okie dokie.
So, oops, just close that down again. A quick look through the two documents that I've pulled out are the unit amplification, which is extremely useful, and again, it then builds you into some research on these characters that give you a chance then to put an analysis together for that. Yeah. And then once you've done that, you can explain the ways those theories will match in with what you do and the ones that won't, and why. Yeah. So you're actually doing an explanation and probably evaluating them at the same time. And again, looking at learning preferences and explaining why identifying those is so important to actually inclusive teaching and learning.
Yeah.
So all of those things then allow you to do the research, put together your pieces and what you want to say from that, and then, like I said, as a Word document, then just send that into me, or into Learn to Work, sorry. And then once it's in, you know, as I said, I will then pick that up, give you some feedback on it as soon as, in the form of the formative one that I showed you. I'll send that back to you. If there are any omissions or things that I think you should think about adding, I'll in the bubble at the side, I'll make clear recommendations on there for you to read through and then pick up from that. Yeah.
Okay.
But as I said at the beginning, when you do that, or if that happens, then when you send me the work back in again, the additional work you do, just put it in a different coloured font, but not yellow because I can't see it. But I suggest red, because when I read, I only have to read through that then. I don't have to go back through the assessment process. I can read through and pick out the bit that you've added and think, yeah, that actually covers what I've said now. I'll turn it black and then send that back to you with okay, and that's fine. Now, the other bit is, I don't advertise this freely, but you'll get my phone number. You've already got my mail. If you are stuck at any one point and you're in the middle of work, it doesn't matter what time it is and what day it is, send me a text. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm up to such and such a thing. I'm a bit stuck. I can't find anything on the VLE that's really telling me what to do. What's your recommendation? And I can then quickly send you a text back, either directing you to something that you can have a read of to, you know, to fulfill what you were looking for. Or, I mean, sometimes I'll think to myself, well, the information is a bit thin on there, and I'll then make a complete recommendation on to how you get past that.
Okay.
And that's sort of done sort of backwards and forwards on a tech pretty quickly. What I find is that on a long qualification like this, if somebody's into the work and they get stuck and can't do anything about it, then they generally drop off for a little bit, and then until they've got, you know, a bit of strength back, and then they come into it again. But I find that if that contact's made early, and I can assist you into moving forward, then that doesn't happen.
Okay.
But it's again something I've picked up from experience with working on distance learning. Of course, I've been a teacher for many years, but I've only been teaching in this manner for the last 3 or 4.
Okay.
So, in actual terms of delivery, it's not a lot different because you use your screen like a whiteboard, really. And of course, you can stick a lot more things on than a whiteboard can take as well. These new interactive boards are perhaps nearer. But yeah, it's like finding out how people learn better, how they get stuck, how to actually get them back motivated again. So sometimes I understand. I've gone through many years of training and can get demotivated quite easily sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to make sure you're clear on.
Okay.
What you've got to do, how you're actually going to do it, and the fact that I'm available, you know, to actually back that up anytime you like.
Okay. Yeah, I think I sort of got a slightly better grip of it.
Right, yeah.
It's a little overwhelming when you look at it as one.
Yeah, it is. I accept that entirely. But as I said, we do it piecemeal. It's not doing. Don't try and get it all in your head at once. You'll just blow a fuse. We work through it slowly. As I said, it's approximately, well, an average, I would say, of 10 months to take through the whole 9 units. Some you will find easier than others. And of course, like I say, and there's the resource, the extra resource, if you like, if you get stuck at any time.
Okay.
Now my 40 minutes are up.
All right.
I try and keep to 40 minutes. So what I normally do at the end is, have you got any questions for me? Anything burning at the minute?
Yeah, well, nothing at the moment. I guess I just better start on that first unit and wait for it, send it to you and see what you think.
Yeah. Well, as I say, use these 2 documents because they are useful, and they do give you. To be honest, this one I'm showing you now. It was in the public domain, but I pinched it because I thought it was good.
Okay.
The other one is the one I've developed myself. I'd already developed that one. Well, this one does more or less the same thing. It's got the objective, the criteria, and here it's got what I've got here. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, information that you can gather to meet the requirements of the qualification.
Okay.
If you've got any questions at any time, of course, you can just drop me a mail. I'll pick that up at least the following day. I'm available in the office on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
But
so I'll start researching these guys' theories and get some notes together and then put something down.
But say on this unit amplification here, 1.1, basically have a look through these guys and pick out, I would say, 3 or 4 maximum of those, and do a little bit more deep depth into them then and say, I want to look at this guy. And I've already given you a heads up on Vygotsky. He is quite an interesting guy, actually. Some of his material is pretty good.
Okay.
Maybe that's just me, because he matches pretty much the way I teach. So, I think probably you look at it differently that way.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Yeah. I've Kieran on the end of there. She seems to have gone off on a tangent. I don't know. You're there. Gone again. Yeah, still there. She keeps vanishing. Half of her keeps vanishing. You might well laugh. Okay, Adrian. I'll call that an interview for this evening then. I just want, Kieran, will you stay on for a couple of minutes? I just want to cover something with you. Yeah? From the last work you sent in. Yeah? Okay, Adrian. Bye for tonight.
Okay, bye.
With Kieran on something I want to cover with her that she's sent in to me. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye now. Right. That's one side and close that one. Kieran, where have you gone? Hi, Kieran. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? You're not listening. Can you hear me? You can hear. Good. I can't hear you. I can only hear noises. The work you've sent in for 1.1 and 1.2 is fine. Yeah? I've sent you that back now. You just need to carry on with looking at models of learning preferences and a shorter analysis on that, and then how the importance of that in putting together your lesson planning. Yeah. Oops. When you actually start in terms of academic writing, who's that there?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh yes, Philip.
I can hear you.
Yeah, now you can hear me.
I can hear you on the computer as well now.
Yeah, there's some problem. I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now.
Yeah, I don't know what you've done, but I can hear you now on the computer.
Okay, then I just switch it off, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you now on the computer. I don't know why.
Okay. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. There was lots of background noise, but I could hear you. Yeah, so what you've done is, when you start on a piece, you don't need to put an introduction. Yeah? What you do is, learning objective 1, assessment criteria 1.1, analyse series, principles and models of learning. Yeah? And then go into your piece. Yeah? And at the end, yeah, good. But then you've gone into detail on each of these, and you've done several. As I said, what you could do is actually, when you're looking at a number of theorists, pick out 3 or 4, yeah, that you think are interesting, yeah, and then once you pick them out, then do the detailed work on them like you've done. So actually, you've done more really than you needed to do.
Yeah, I've read your email.
Yeah, you've done more than you need to do, but that is fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, you might be able to cross-reference some of this to other units later on. Yeah. So what you put in is fine.
At the end.
And the constructivism in learning, all that is fine. And coming up to the end. Then 102, explain ways in which it can be put into practice, which is, you've explained on there, that is fine. Now, when you start to write your next bit, yeah, for 1.3, yeah?
1.3.
Starts here.
Okay.
Can you see that? Start 1.3 there. Don't start it on a new document, yeah?
Okay.
Start it on this. Yeah, start 1.3 on the end of there, yeah, and carry on from there.
Okay.
If we don't, I end up with about 6 different versions of it. And the other thing I meant to tell you, on this, of course, you've got no work to add. But if in the little bubble at the side here, I put some recommendations in for you to add to your work, yeah. make sure that you put your additional work in red. Yeah? I've lost you again. Can you hear me? No, you've lost me again. You've gone. Did you pick that up? Oh, she's gone out again. Oh, here we are. So, hello.
Yeah, sorry for your back.
Yeah, you've gone again. Yeah, all I was going to say actually was that if you have to at any point add some extra work, if I've sent you a message to do so, make sure that it's in red when you send it back to me. If on the work you've sent in, there's no additional work needed, it completely fulfills the requirements, no problem. If at any time in the little bubbles at the side it doesn't say okay, but it makes a recommendation to you to add some further work, yeah? When you do the extra work, add it into the same document, but do it in red. What that does, it tells me where the additional work is straight away. I don't have to go looking for it. And then as soon as I've read it, I can say, yeah, that's fine. Put a bubble on to say it's fine and turn it black. And then... No, you don't need to do it now because the work you've sent in is fine. It's just at any point in the qualification, if I put you some extra work to do in the bubble at the side, when you do the extra work to send in, make sure it's in a different coloured font so that I can pick it out straight away. That's all. That's all I was going to say. So you are carrying on now with 1.3 and 1.4, and I will await the work to come in.
So 1.7, 1.4?
Yeah.
Have we covered in this video?
Yeah. I'll go back to that and show you literally what it is. Oops. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
You still see my screen, okay.
That's my work?
Yeah, that's your work. Let me close that down. What you need to look at now in 1.3 is an analysis of models of learning preference, yeah? And then explain how identifying and taking into account learners' individual preferences enables inclusive teaching and learning and assessment. In other words, when you know how your learners learn, yeah, you can then put the lesson together and the resources that you need to meet all those different needs. Because as we said, some people learn by listening, some people learn by doing, and some people learn by seeing something, yeah. And the information you need on that is on the VLE. I've actually put that to one side.
So now theory is finished, and now we just have to concentrate on models of learning. So no more theory is added.
Sorry? Okay, I missed that last bit. Yeah, you need to look at, where are we? 1.3, you've got an analysis to do on models of learning preference, yeah?
Okay.
So you've got some guys in here, Honey and Mumford, Gardner, Caulfield, and Entwistle. Yeah, have a look at them and see what they've got to say. and then explain how, having taken into consideration those things, how you would actually put a lesson plan together. It's like if you've got a number of different types of learners, some of your delivery can be verbal, information giving, like I'm doing now. Some of it can be a video or a PowerPoint presentation, yeah, for the visual learners. And then at the end, you could probably put a little quiz in for those that like doing something. Yeah, you can actually do one on yourself. That's sometimes useful to do that. Yeah. There is one on the VLE somewhere. Well, that's true to a certain extent, but not all children learn that way. That's what this is looking at. And this is what you'll find when you start to look at some of these guys. Yeah.
So everybody is different. Some by textbooks, some by verbal, some by videos.
Yeah, some people learn. Well, if you go into this one and have a look at some of these guys, that's one way of doing it. If I close that down, I'm going to back into here. There's a PowerPoint on here as well. Yeah. If you look at the PowerPoint, oops, yeah, on here, there's a whole host of things on here. So it's a big one, this, so you can have a look at this. You've got a bunch of people on here. Next one.
Okay, so it's all covering one point.
Yeah. Oops.
So these are the things in the movie that the good had.
Yeah, everything you need is on there. I'll close that one down.
Yeah, this part of the movie.
Yeah, on Unit 3. Yeah. So it'll give you the paper that I've got. It gives you the suggested evidence at the bottom, the unit amplification, which are the two ones I've got out on itself tonight. Yeah. Yeah. And then you've got the different PowerPoints that you can have a look at as well. There's an ebook in there where you can do some reading as well if you want. Yeah. So a whole host of things on here. You can just have a look through. Yeah. We've got one PowerPoint specific to Learning Objective 2 and another one there on specific to Learning Objective 4. The big one I've just shown you covers LO1, 3 and 4 and 5. So that one's worth a look at as well. But it's a big one that you can just pick out different bits of it to suit yourself. It's about 30 odd slides, I think, on that. Yeah, so each of the units has got its own material. Unit 3, with not being a big unit, it's not got as much on it, but it's enough to cover what you need to do. So, with that, have you got any specific outstanding questions?
No, just start from the same thing.
Yeah, on 1.3 and 1.4. Just do your pieces on there. And then, as I say, send them in as usual, and I'll pick those up and send you some feedback.
So, LO3 and LO4?
No, LO1, 1.3 and 1.4.
1.3 and 1.4.
Yeah, Learning Objective 1. It's the second part. That one. You've done those two. Yeah, you've done those two. It's just that one and that one now. Yeah. Yeah. Get rid of that. And Claude. Where are you? Yes, I do. That's gone. Okay. Anyway, no problem. And if you need me in between, of course, you can always send me a text.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for attending, and I'll speak to you next week.
Thanks for your time.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.